Hello, everyone. Welcome to Everything Arsenal. Hope you guys are doing well. Now, today's Monday, a new week. Usually after the international break, that upcoming weekend, usually starting to build up to the next Premier League game. But this time, we actually don't have a Premier League game this weekend, so we have another 8 days before we play again, because there's an FA Cup games this weekend. So still a lot of time to prepare, and a lot of news. No, there wasn't too much news on the weekend, but over the last couple of days, we'll talk about everything that has happened, including the latest on a striker. Now, we know we want Isaac, and we know we've always talked about Gyökeres. His price tag has been revealed, so we'll be talking about that, as you can see in the thumbnail. And also the latest on Jorginho. Gyökeres is not the only striker we are linked to. We also linked to another striker who plays for Frankfurt, French striker. He recently just scored a hat-trick against the England at the 21. So could that be the answer? And also Jurrien team, but Jurrien team was picked up by Netherlands for the 2 international games that they were playing, but he actually didn't play any of them, and that is because he was ill. So what's the update on him, and will he be available for the next Premier League game next Tuesday? Let's talk about all that. So let's start with the big one, that is Viktor Gyökeres. This is the latest on him. So according to reports on Viktor Gyökeres, Arsenal are plotting a decisive raid on Sporting for Viktor Gyökeres this summer. They have requested a formal meeting with his agent Hassan Ekitike, who is said to be a friend of Mikel Arteta. So Viktor Gyökeres, this is a player like last season. Gyökeres is the player that I really, really wanted. Like, the numbers that this guy has been putting up is crazy. And the reason why I wanted him last season is not only because of the goals, but because of the assists as well. He's a player who can do both. As I usually say, you can get a striker. People usually prefer strikers who can get, 40 goals, 2 assists. That is fine as long as he's scoring the goals. But Gyökeres is the opposite. Gyökeres would probably get you 40 goals and, and like 10, 15 assists in the same season. That is a high quality. I think that is what I would really want. I think that's what I was kind of looking for from Jesus. And Jesus was actually doing it a lot in the first season, getting both goals and contributing to assists and, coming back and then defending and all that. A player who can get involved in the play. I think I as well as prefer the striker who can get involved in the play, not just wait in the box. But I think like Gyökeres can do both of them. Now, those stats that he had last season and the previous season, and even so far this season, last year, 2024, he had 53 goals. That is a lot. The Nation League competition that is going on, the Nations League, by the way, yesterday's games were absolutely incredible, man. Those international games, 3-3, 4-3, they were absolutely fun to watch. In that competition, Gyökeres is the top scorer. He has 9 goals in the Nations League. So scoring goals is not something that Gyökeres has a problem with, and that is something that we definitely have a problem with. Like, you can go as far as saying if Gyökeres was playing for Arsenal last season, we would win. We would win the title. That is how big of a improvement he would be in our team. But last season, it looked like it was impossible to get him because I think his release clause was like 100 million euros, and that was like 83 million pounds at that time. And it looked like a lot of money, but I thought it would have been possible because it's only 83 million pounds. Strikers these days, if you're trying to improve our team and go for top-notch strikers, Isaac would cost you 150 million. So is it better to get someone like a Gyökeres? Now, how much would Gyökeres cost Arsenal? So this is what Plettenberg of Plettigola said. As exclusively revealed in October, Viktor Gyökeres can leave Sporting for 60 million euros. That is 50 million pounds in the summer, as there's a verbal agreement between Gyökeres and the club. The current and clear trend: Gyökeres will not join Forest. By the way, Forest, if Forest ended up getting someone like a Gyökeres, then they're very serious because it looks like they're going to be in the Champions League next season. Imagine if Nottingham Forest got Gyökeres as well as Chris Wood in their team. That would be big. That would be the kind of signing that definitely takes to the next level, and that is the signing that would take us to the next level. So if you had 150 million pounds to spend, would you use it all on Isaac and no other signing, or would you prefer getting someone like a Gyökeres and a winger? But depends. Who do you prefer between the two? Do you prefer Isaac? Do you prefer Gyökeres? For me, I'm kind of, since last season, I've always been like 55% Gyökeres, 45% Isaac. But Isaac this season has been phenomenal. And then obviously if you add the Premier League experience on top of that, Gyökeres has played in England before. He's played for Coventry in the Championship before. So he's definitely learned a thing or two about the English game, but not the Premier League. Isaac has been in the Premier League for like 4 seasons, so he knows the in and outs and how to attack and how to get past certain defenders, which team wants to do in this particular game. Isaac understands all of that. But Would you pay the 150 million? I think it would be easier to sign Gyökeres than Isaac. I think signing Isaac would be very, very difficult because you're not going to be the only ones that want him. I'm sure Gyökeres, we wouldn't be the only ones that want him as well. And it depends if Newcastle want to sell him anyway. Looks like Sporting and Gyökeres have an agreement for him to leave. I would not be happy. Like, imagine a scenario where we don't get Isaac and then Gyökeres ends up like at a Nottingham Forest. That would be disastrous. That would be absolutely disastrous. It has to be one of them, or maybe a third option, whoever. It has to be one of these. I think these are the ones that take us to the next level. And for 50 million pounds, that is incredible, man. Like, if money is an issue, but we were told we have 300 million, but depends on how many positions you want to sort out. If you got someone like a Gyökeres for 50 million and that sorts out your striker situation, and you had 300 million, just imagine 250 million remaining. Even if you push that to 60 million or something, you still have a lot of balance, and that can allow you to get, another number 10 to help out Odegaard, maybe move Odegaard to the number 8, a new left winger, a backup. We need a backup goalkeeper as well. That can allow you to really improve the attacking third in our team, and we need a lot of improvement there. The problem is that right now we don't have one problem with our forward line. If it was just Martinelli is not doing well, but Trossard is doing well, Havertz is doing well, Saka is doing well, Odegaard is doing well, you just need to sort out one position. Then you'd be like, okay, if you had only had one problem in terms of just scoring goals, the striker, but the wingers are doing well and Odegaard is doing well and all this, you'd be okay. But at the moment, the truth is we don't have only one problem. Odegaard hasn't had a good season. He's been injured and then he didn't come back. Basically, the same player hasn't been the same player he was. I was watching the highlights from the 2023 season. Odegaard was incredible in games against Wolves away, Newcastle away, Tottenham. Odegaard was phenomenal in that season. We've not had that Odegaard since. Same with Martinelli. Trossard, we've not had the Trossard from last season. Havertz, we before his injury, didn't have the Havertz from last season, the end of last season, the one who was scoring goals. And obviously Saka's been injured as well. So that's a lot of problems. You can argue you need a backup for Odegaard, a backup for Saka, different number 8 in that role, depending on whether Partey is going to stay or leave. Will Rice move to the number 6? So there's a lot of things to work on this preseason. And I think maybe if you could get a striker like this who improves your team and you don't have to spend 100 million plus, that allows you to spend in the rest for basically the rest of the team. So that's an interesting one. Let's see what happens with this one. But interesting, according to reports that Ateta and the Gyökeres agent are friends. So hopefully that can help us. And obviously there's the added thing about Andrea Bata now. Does the sporting director feel like Gyökeres is a good deal, or does he have other names in mind? All that we'll get to know in the transfer window. So another striker be linked to Ekitike. Arsenal are particularly hot for Eintracht Frankfurt's Hugo Ekitike. Man United, Newcastle, and Liverpool are also interested in the Frenchman. Now, Ekitike is 22 years of age. He's done very, very well from Frankfurt this season. He was on loan there last season. He only scored 4 goals last season. This season, he scored 13 goals in 25 Bundesliga games. Previously, he was at PSG. He wasn't really a regular and all that. He's played in Denmark before and all that. So I don't think if he signed Ekitike as the main striker, the fans would be happy. I don't think that would be the case. If he signed Gyökeres and then he also signed Ekitike, I think fans will be excited with that. Absolutely excited, because that would be 2 strikers when you've never really even signed one the last 5 years. That would be big. But if you just like splashing money for Ekitike, I don't think fans will be convinced about that. And rightly so. I'd say these days I'm usually scared. I think the board themselves have been scared since we signed Pepe and it didn't work out. So I think that kind of taught us a lesson. And since then, we were scared for like 4 or 5 years to spend money and to just go for, players who've had one good season in their teams. It's very risky. Signing a player who's only had one good season, very dangerous. Pepe is a good example. I think you need to sign players who are, are established. And Isaac and Gyökeres are established. You've seen them scoring goals for 4 or 5 seasons. More than that, Isaac previously at Dortmund and Sociedad. More than that, even Gyökeres at Coventry. Those are players that are established. You can confirm that they can score goals. For someone like an Ekitike, yes, promising, but you never know. Next season he could score 3 goals and then what, But this season has been incredible, and he's French as well. We've always had I think for French strikers since back in the day. Could this be the next Thierry Henry, the next Anelka, the next Wiltord? Who knows? And also looks bit tall and stuff. I've not watched him in a game and stuff. Just the highlights. So I cannot give you the the 100% accurate analysis on him. I've watched Gyokeres a lot, so that is the player that I want. With Ekitike, I don't think we would sign him as a main striker, but he does have his strengths. Gyokeres does have his strengths. Isaac does have his strengths. But if you had to sign like two strikers, if that was the plan, and then you sign Gyokeres and Ekitike, then I think people would be happy with that, because I don't think that will happen though, because Havertz is coming back next season and Jesus is not leaving, is coming back next season. I don't think you're going to sign two strikers. I think it's maybe going to be a striker and a winger, or maybe an attacking midfielder. But let's see how it goes with that one. I can't wait for the transfer window. This time I'm very excited for the transfer window, also because Andrea Bat has now joined the team. I cannot wait to see the kind of targets that we have. Let's go to the injury news on Jurrien Timber. So according to Simon Collins, Jurrien Timber is expected to be fit to also return to Premier League action against Fulham after the international break. So he was picked by Netherlands. This is one player that I really wanted to rest, but he was picked by Netherlands, and I thought hopefully just plays one game and not two. And they're going to have a tough game against Spain. You know, if he was playing as a right back, he usually plays a centre back for Netherlands. But if he was playing like right back, he'd be up against Nico Williams on that side. It would be tough. It would be a tough test during the international break. But he was ill and he didn't actually play any of the two games. They lost on penalties yesterday in the second leg. He didn't play any of the games, and it was a bit concerning. Yes, thankfully Ben White is back, but yeah, you want Jurrien Timber fit for these games that are coming up, especially the Champions League ones. And hey, that means he's rested. That means he's rested for these 2 weeks, which is great. Gabriel also only played one game for Brazil. He was suspended for the second one, so that is good rest for him. Saliba had to play all the way to extra time in the second game, so he didn't get any kind of rest. Odegaard played for Norway as well. I think he's going to play the next game too. So Rice is playing tonight against England as well, for England as well. Lewis Kelly, both of them are going to play 2 games. So not many of the players are going to rest, but luckily in terms of Timber and Gabriel, both of them are getting good rest, which is very good. If you're going to proceed in the Champions League, our defense has to be good. We have to play out of this world, like the way we've been playing the last 3 years, even better. To proceed in the Champions League, that is not, it needs to happen unless we somehow just start scoring goals in that game. So Jurrien Timber, that's a boost. It looks like he doesn't even have to play the Fulham game, really. He can even just wait for the Everton game, and then we can play Ben White in the Fulham game. Jorginho, also latest on Jorginho, according to the latest reports, Jorginho's agent, Joao Santos, has revealed that from April 15th, he will begin talks with clubs in England, including Arsenal, as well as teams in Italy, Saudi Arabia, and Brazil. He also confirmed Jorginho's latest Brazil trip was solely to see family. So he has been in Rio recently. Jorginho, I think it was almost like a foregone conclusion that he was going to go to Brazil, but looks like that's not the case. He might end up in Italy, maybe Saudi Arabia. Could he end up staying at Arsenal? I don't know. I don't feel like both Pat and Jorginho are going to leave. I think one of them is going to stay. It's so hard to predict, though. It's so hard. Could Pat end up getting a new contract in May or something? Or will Jorginho get an extra year again? Selling both means you're going to need 2 midfielders, unless Rice is going to be moved back to the number 6. And then you get a different number 8. I don't know what is going to happen with that. But Jorginho, last season I really wanted to keep him. He was really good for us that half season, 2023 season. I mean, I wouldn't mind if someone like a Jorginho stayed for us on the bench next season. He brings that leadership, and for most of the players, what most of the players have been saying, is a very good guy in terms of the leadership and just the positivity in the dressing room. He brings a lot of that, like El Neni did, like just a good person to have in the dressing room. And he's a player who's won things. You know, you don't have too many players like that, and he's one of them who's won, you know, Champions League titles and Euros and all that. So he's a winner, and he's been top 3 in Ballon d'Or, so he definitely knows what he's doing. But let's see what happens with Jorginho. But looks like it's not completely agreed where he is going to go. Lastly, just on the Emirates Stadium, there have been recent internal discussions about expanding the Emirates Stadium, but no concrete plans have yet been put forward. This according to The Athletic. So at the moment, we have that 60,000 capacity, but obviously our ground was, you know, opened in 2006, and since then, you know, West Ham have moved into a new stadium, another modern stadium. Tottenham have built a modern stadium. Man United are going to move to a new stadium. Chelsea are probably going to move to a new stadium. There's Everton moving to a new stadium. And I'm sure other teams, Brentford recently moved to a new stadium as well. So ours was, you know, built like more than 20 years ago already. So most of these teams that are building now will overtake us in terms of capacity and stadium quality and the new advances and all that. So how are we going to be able to improve that? Because now the teams that built their stadiums in the early 2000s, like Man City and Arsenal, those teams, they will need to add extra bits, maybe expanding the stadium maybe to 65,000 at least, or more than that. I don't think it's worth. You can't build another stadium right now. I remember the things we went through when we were building that stadium, and you couldn't sign players for like 5 years. I wouldn't want that anymore. And plus, I think Emirates Stadium is a really, really good stadium. If there was a way to expand it, then that would be great for us. That would be great. Although obviously people say, no, we've never won anything there. That's true. We've never won the big stuff at the Emirates Stadium. But still a very good stadium. Still, the carpet's very, very beautiful stadium. So expanding it, I think that is the way to go. But yeah, obviously the teams that have been building their stadiums recently, they have the advantage of having more capacity and building it to 2030s kind of level, and for us we are building it in the early 2000s. So there's a difference there. But that's the latest on Arsenal and stuff. Let's see what happens with all that. Let me know your crazy, Isaac. Would you prefer Gyökeres and then get a winger, or do you really want Isaac and you don't care about any other striker? Let me know. Another thing with Gyökeres, he's been benched a few times since Amorim left, and there's some Champions League games he hasn't played. He's been rotated, other strikers played, so the form hasn't been as good as it was under Amorim, but he still scores goals. He still has 40 plus goals this season alone. So quality. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch up with you on the next one.